Hello, and welcome to Relaxing Facts. I'm Chad K, and today I will be talking about the great Mongol ruler Kublai Khan, not to be confused with the hardcore metal band from Texas. Each week, I share interesting stories and little-known facts on a variety of topics, accompanied by gentle, soothing music. My goal is to help you find a sense of calm during your busy day. Feel free to settle into a cozy spot and let yourself be carried away by these relaxing facts. Kublai Khan was born in 1215 into one of the most powerful families in history, the Mongol royal line. He was the grandson of Genghis Khan and the fourth son of Tolui, Genghis's younger son, and Surgagtani Beki, an Nestorian Christian princess of Central Asian origin. His mother, Surgagtani, was one of the most politically astute figures of the 13th century. She ensured her four sons were educated not just in Mongol warfare and steppe politics, but also in foreign languages, philosophy, and governance. Kublai, in particular, was exposed to Chinese culture early on. He studied Confucian texts, learned Chinese administrative practices, and cultivated friendships with scholars. This dual education, Mongol warrior culture, and Chinese intellectual tradition would come to define his reign. By the time his older brother, Mongke, became Great Khan in 1251, Kublai was already positioned as a skilled diplomat and administrator. Mongke appointed him to govern parts of northern China, where Kublai began testing out a new style of rule, relying heavily on Chinese advisors. Mongke Khan's death in 1259 during a military campaign in Sichuan created a power vacuum. Two brothers rose to claim the imperial throne: Kublai, from his base in northern China, and Arik Boke, who declared himself Great Khan in the Mongol heartland at Karakoram. This sparked a civil war called the Toluid Civil War that lasted for 4 years, from 1260 to 1264. The conflict wasn't just a succession dispute. It was a fundamental clash of visions. Arik Boke represented traditional Mongol nomadic values and sought to keep power centered in the steppe. Kublai, by contrast, envisioned a multi-ethnic empire that embraced settled governance and Chinese administrative systems. Kublai convened a council in Kaiping and was declared Great Khan, but many Mongol nobles still backed Arik Boke. Battles were fought across Central Asia and northern China. Eventually, Kublai's access to greater resources and his control over agricultural lands allowed him to outlast his brother. Arik Boke surrendered in 1264. However, the civil war fractured the unity of the Mongol Empire. The Golden Horde in the northwest, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Ilkhanate in Persia recognized Kublai nominally, but functioned independently from then on. Now in control of northern China and the Mongol imperial title, Kublai moved to solidify his rule and gain legitimacy among his Chinese subjects. In 1271, he officially declared the establishment of the Yuan dynasty, borrowing the dynastic model from Chinese tradition and positioning himself as the rightful heir to the mandate of heaven. He adopted the Chinese imperial title of Emperor Shizu of Yuan and made Dadu, which is modern-day Beijing, the capital of his empire. His court reflected the cosmopolitan nature of his rule. Advisors came not only from Mongol ranks, but also from Chinese, Persian, and Tibetan backgrounds. Kublai Khan retained many Mongol customs in military and cultural life, but his administration was heavily influenced by Chinese norms. He implemented a four-class social system. At the top were the Mongols, followed by Simuran, which were non-Han Central and West Asians, and then the Northern Chinese, and finally the Southern Chinese, the former subjects of the Song dynasty. This social hierarchy was a strategic way to consolidate control, rewarding loyalty to the new regime while keeping the vast Han Chinese population in a subordinate position. But it also sowed resentment and unrest, particularly in the south. Though he now ruled much of northern China, Kublai Khan still faced resistance from the southern Song dynasty. The Song controlled a wealthy and populous region south of the Yangtze River, with a strong navy and a well-organized bureaucracy. The campaign to conquer the Song took nearly a decade. Kublai's generals, particularly Bayan of the Barin clan, played critical roles. In 1276, Mongol forces captured the Song capital of Lin'an, which is present-day Hangzhou, and took the child emperor into custody. However, loyalist resistance continued, culminating in the dramatic Battle of Yamen in 1279. In a desperate last stand, the Song fleet was destroyed in a naval engagement. The last Song emperor, the young Zhao Bing, died, and according to legend, he was carried into the sea by his court official to avoid capture. With this victory, Kublai Khan became the first non-Han ruler to unify all of China under one dynasty. The conquest of the Song not only completed the Mongol takeover of China, but marked the beginning of full imperial consolidation under Yuan rule. As emperor of a united China, Kublai Khan faced the challenge of ruling a vast, multi-ethnic, and culturally diverse population. He continued to balance Mongol traditions with Chinese institutions. He reformed the tax system to make it more efficient and expanded the Grand Canal to improve grain transport from the south to the capital. He promoted the use of paper money across the empire, creating one of the first centralized monetary systems in history. Though it eventually led to inflation, it was a major innovation at the time. Kublai also established institutions like the Bureau of Buddhist and Tibetan Affairs and invested in infrastructure, postal systems, and public works. He encouraged trade along the Silk Road and maritime routes, linking China more closely to Persia, India, the Middle East, and Europe. Perhaps most famously, Kublai hosted the Venetian traveler Marco Polo, who spent about 17 years in Yuan, China. In Polo's writings, he described the emperor's wealth, administrative brilliance, and the splendor of his court. Though some of Polo's accounts may be exaggerated, they shaped Western views of the East for generations. Despite achievements, Kublai faced unrest. Many Han Chinese scholars refused to serve his regime. Corruption was rampant, especially among local officials. Natural disasters, such as floods, droughts, and famines, exacerbated tensions, and uprisings became more common in later years. With success in China, Kublai turned to foreign conquest, but this time things did not go as planned. In 1274 and 1281, he launched two massive invasions of Japan. The first ended in retreat. The second, one of the largest seaborne invasions in history, was wiped out by a typhoon, the so-called kamikaze or divine wind. Tens of thousands of troops died at sea. Kublai also sent expeditions to Vietnam, Java, and Burma. While some achieved temporary victories, none resulted in long-term control. The terrain, climate, and fierce local resistance proved too much, and these campaigns drained the empire's resources. Kublai's later years were marked by personal tragedies. His favorite wife, Chubby, died in 1281. His chosen heir, Zenjin, died in 1285. The aging emperor became increasingly withdrawn, struggling with depression and obesity. He delegated more and more authority to ministers, losing direct control over parts of his administration. By the time of his death in 1294, Kublai Khan was still emperor, but the cracks in his empire had begun to show. Kublai's legacy is immense, though very complex. He was the first non-Han emperor to rule all of China. His Yuan dynasty lasted nearly a century and left a lasting imprint on Chinese politics, culture, and infrastructure. He bridged worlds, uniting Mongol military might with Chinese statecraft. His reign saw the height of Mongol cosmopolitanism and the reopening of global trade networks. But the system he built was fragile. After his death, the Yuan dynasty weakened rapidly. Corruption grew worse. Successors lacked his vision. Rebellions intensified. And in 1368, the Yuan were overthrown by Zhu Yuanzhang, founder of the Ming dynasty. The Mongols retreated to the north, where their descendants formed the northern Yuan. Still, Kublai Khan had done what none before him could. He united the world's largest land empire with the world's most sophisticated bureaucracy. He opened the gates between East and West, between nomad and city, tradition and innovation. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this week's talk. If you like this episode of Relaxing Facts, I would love for you to subscribe, leave a comment, or just click like. I hope you have a fantastic day, whether you are taking a moment to unwind or simply enjoying some calming listening. Thanks so much for being here. I am Chad K, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.